Okay, so it's 3, 2, 1, you're on. Enjoy. Chat later.
Welcome, everybody, to another amazing episode of Life Unscripted. This is your host, Melody Garcia.
And this is Janie Lacey.
So, Janie, how's your week been?
It is a great week. School has started. We're back to school. We are in fall.
Yes, and this are for the parents that gets to do homework with their children. So we are back on the homework ground. So you've had a pretty amazing week. I've been following you on the social media space. I've been busy running from one meeting to another. But, without further ado, I am really, really, really excited. And I just feel like so privileged to have our next guest on.
We are super excited to have none other than Lamont Easter. Welcome to our podcast, Life Unscripted. It is such an honor and a privilege to have you, and we're looking forward to having a conversation with you today. But for some of our viewers and our listeners that may not be familiar with Lamont, I just want to read a little bit about him. So Lamont is a television, film, and commercial actor who has had or is currently making reoccurring appearances on shows such as Netflix's House of Cards, Showtimes' Homeland, HBO's VEEP, CBS's Madam Security, and Lamont just completed a supporting role in the feature film Jacqueline and Jilly written. Directed and starring Victoria Rowell, to be released this fall. Lamont can also be seen in various national commercials and print campaigns. Lamont is also featured in many corporate video productions and has had leading and supporting roles in several independent films and web series. Lamont is the on-screen spokesperson for a worldwide initiative by the U.S. State Department that provides world leaders and their governments critical information on global counterterrorism issues. Lamont is a sought-after MC host, hosting many events in his market, including the Television, Internet, and Video Association Peer Awards at the Embassy of France in Washington, D.C. Lamont is known as a production, entertainment, and new media people connector and enabler in the Mid-Atlantic market and beyond. Lamont is also a dedicated humanitarian and philanthropist, advocating for equality for all and promoting public awareness for those afflicted with childhood cancer, autism, sexual trafficking, among many other issues on social conscience. So welcome to Life Unscripted, Lamont.
Thank you. I think the only thing that was left out is that I like taking the white out of Oreo cookies.
Well, there you have it. He likes taking the white out of Oreo cookies.
Well, No, so I was going to say that the good thing so Lamont and I met on the speaking space back in March of 2018. I didn't know him from Adam. And the reason I'm really excited about this particular podcast is it was what he said to me that day, which is what we're going to dive into, that really grounded me and said, who is this man outside the camera space? Right? We're gonna do a deep dive on, because we do have this facade of celebrities and television actors, but the heart of who Lamont is what I'm really, really excited for this particular segment for the listeners and viewers of this show to know. So take it away, Jamie.
Well, congratulations, Lamont, on taking the white out of the Oreos. A real person that has real problems. But we really want to officially welcome you to Life Unscripted. We are just so excited to have you. Life Unscripted focuses on just that. Unscript our life of limited beliefs, perceived expectations that are conditioned by society, generations, culture, religion, and ourself that prevents us from being happy and free to live the best fulfilled life in all sectors. So when I was learning a little bit about you, one of the things that had jumped out at me that was very, very interesting, and I just want to jump right into that. If you could tell us a little bit about the hashtag #menthatdefend.
That popped into my mind. It was, I don't remember the exact moment, but it was related to the whole Me Too movement and what had happened with Harvey Weinstein and all the stories that were starting to come out. And I saw people coming forward and speaking, which is fantastic. The the empowerment of primarily women in this space, speaking out on some of the abuses and some of the harassment that they went through, and being empowered and having a voice. Absolutely fantastic. But it in addition dawned on me that until men stand up and let other men realize that behavior isn't acceptable, even in the proverbial locker room space where they're joking and saying that kind of stuff, for another guy to turn and look and say, that's not funny. What makes you think that's funny? What if that was your daughter, your wife, your mother they were talking about? Would you still think it's funny? And I really think with all the initiatives and the forward momentum that's going, until men, amongst men, make it clear that this behavior, whether it's just joking about it or not, is just unacceptable, then I think that's when we'll have real change. There's external forces, the women speaking and coming forward, and people having understanding and awareness. But I think another key to the solution is for men themselves, amongst men, to stand up and say this kind of behavior is unacceptable. And so I just came up with #menthatdefend, and I kind of tagged that on anything on related topics. And it doesn't have to be just on, it could be on human trafficking awareness, anything where it could be on social issues of education and equality. It's just men that defend, that have a mindset of defending right and wrong across the spectrum, wherever it shows up. So it did start with the kind of Me Too and the sexual harassment topic, but I think it permeates all topics of right and wrong from a humanitarian perspective. Just be a man that defends in any way, shape, or form that you can. It can be speaking out. It can actually be doing something, putting dollars and cents forwards, but just lending your voice to correcting wrongs and perceptions. So I think that's kind of the genesis of it for me. I've seen a few other men in my social space use it, which I kind of got a kick out of. I have no idea how pervasive it is, but I think it's a good tag, and we'll see what happens. But I'm not really following it as a platform. If it gets, use it, please, men, use it. Let them know what it stands for in your own words.
I think it's a great hashtag, and I think it can be a great platform as well. So when you think about just your whole thoughts about it and following the Me Too platform, and you've already mentioned a couple of like practical things people can do to get involved, is there anything else that you would think the men that are listening to this that that on a day-to-day basis, if they see certain things in their workplace or out and about, some things that they can keep in mind so that they can be effective in speaking out and stepping up and being part of changing our cultural norms, as what has the Me Too movement has brought to the forefront?
Well, I'm really not one to preach to anyone what they should or shouldn't do from that perspective. It's relative to the individual. I hope we all know right and wrong. And it's up to that individual to use their voice. I use my voice in the way that I see fit, but I think just having a voice and using it in your space and in your walk will make a difference, even if it's just planting a seed that can germinate later in somebody else's mind. So I'm a big believer in planting seeds. As little as they may be, and you never know. I kind of like the butterfly effect. Just one little puff of air here can cause a tsunami on the other side of the planet eventually. So I really don't have anything specific I would suggest to other men. It comes from within. It comes from your heart. It comes from your foundation. It just comes from making a choice that from this moment forward, I'm going to use my voice to make a difference. And how big, how wide it is really doesn't matter because, like I said, the butterfly effect, a small gesture now can permeate into something big later.
Well, thank you for that, Lamont. I actually wanted to expand on that because he downplays his hashtag. And I said that stupid. He downplays the hashtag because the impact just on the message of the hashtag is big, right? So, for example, something that he said. So Lamont and I shared, this stage just recently again at the We Model competition. His foundational support was actually supporting the fight against human trafficking. And he was the MC for this event. And when I say hashtag men that defend, he said something so pivotal that really resonated the platform of his belief. And he basically said, women have the right to wear what they want to wear and not be endangered into the rape culture mentality. See, the premises of that, right before he said that, is because there was a buzz with the bathing suit competition part of that event, because if we were supposed to be supporting the fight against human trafficking, then why were those models then parading in bathing suits and bikinis? And that in itself was so judgmental because to Lamont's point, and Lamont, please feel free to expand on this, is that why is it that women are subjected to this ridicule of if you wear a certain thing, then you invited that harassment or that violence into your life, right?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I just addressed it because I knew some of the promotional material that we had done for this particular event with models and tying it to awareness on sexual human trafficking, that it was somewhat provocative in some people's minds. Boy, how can you talk about anti-trafficking, but you have these models in swimsuit but so I decided to address it that we can celebrate, and women can celebrate their beauty and their femininity and wear what they want and be who they are and celebrate themselves without, I don't believe they should have the stigma of, like you said, the rape, harassment culture or stigma placed upon them. A woman has a right to be beautiful and within respectable bounds, obviously, celebrate that and show her beauty. I appreciate the beauty of women, but that doesn't give me or anybody else a right to denigrate, to be suggestive, or a step further to harass physically or emotionally for them celebrating their own beauty. So, and the other reason with it tied being to the model competition is human sexual trafficking. One of the entry points is predators using models and photography to get close and to manipulate those who want to be a model, want to be a model, whether it's runway, beauty pageants, photo, print. A lot of predators use that as a vehicle to manipulate, and that's one vehicle that's used to entice people into human sexual trafficking. So why not put them together? Which was the point, one of the points of that particular event that we shared the stage on.
Right. And again, the beauty of just saying a powerful statement such as that, of basically, it's like women have the right to celebrate their own beauty. They have the right to be in a safe environment and not be judged as, as a target. And I just admire you and applaud you for taking that platform. And again, when we spoke again back in March when we first met, when you did say men that defend. And to Janie, she'll probably, your thoughts on this. When you have men who is like Lamont, who is in the public eye most of the time with his television show and, you know, celebrity status that he has. You know, it's very rare for us to come into the space of men who will really, like as I said, like Lamont's stature here, to come out with that powerful hashtag and that defend. And to me, it's just completely admirable. So I know that there were 3 points that you wanted to drive in, but I wanted to ask you a question, Lamont, and then feel free to just, you know, to just share with our audience. One of the things that I do ask is, tell us, you know, about that why. Why are you driven on the humanitarian space, and why and how did you find yourself in front of a television camera with this, you know, big shows that you're doing?
Which one first? How and why I got in front of the camera. It was by pure accident. About 6 years ago, I had a supervisor at work who would bug me. Oh, you should be a model. You should be in comedy. You should be on TV, whatever. And I would just kind of roll my eyes and yeah, right. And one day she sent me what they call an open call that was going on in DC, where a show was looking for background people. So I figured, for the first time in 15 years, I'll placate her and go ahead and send in my picture. And then 2 days later, I was getting a haircut. My cell phone rang. I motioned for the barber. Oh, hold on a second. I answered it, and they said, oh, this is casting from House of Cards. We'd like for you to come in. I was like, oh, okay. And that's kind of where it started, by doing background work on a couple of major shows that came through here. And then about 3 years ago, started taking it serious and focusing on training on the craft, and kind of where I am today, moving forward on that particular journey. But it was not something that I really sought out. I fell into it totally by accident, and kind of running with it and seeing what I can do with it.
I think that's
that
awesome.
Was the second.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to make a comment about that, Lamont. I think that's awesome. You know, so some of our listeners is like, when the opportunity knocks, about taking advantage of that moment. You never know, you know, what your path can be formed as a result of just taking the opportunity. And it sounds like that's worked well for you.
Yeah. And as I moved forward, the additional opportunities that have presented themselves, even like this opportunity, had I not been doing what I'm now currently pursuing, I likely wouldn't have had those opportunities to be able to express myself and have a broader audience for my truth and my voice. And I think that's really the main impetus behind the pursuit of this. Is it opens me up to having a broader, my voice being heard a little bit more in a broader spectrum, to speak my truth. And it's my truth. It doesn't necessarily have to be anybody else's, but I had a pretty good foundation from my parents of what right and wrong is, and I just speak my truth based on that. And if it can have a positive impact on someone else, fantastic. I try to sponsor, at least here locally, and get involved with initiatives, as you had mentioned, childhood cancer, autism. I was a founding board director on autismfyi.org, and we deal with those on the autism spectrum as young adults. So it gives me a platform to at least within earshot of people I come across to promote and educate and inform and make people aware of some of these things that I find interesting. So I'm not locked into any one topic. If it touches me, if it strikes me, if I have an opinion on it, then I'll say it. And I typically have an opinion just about on everything. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I'll stand corrected in a heartbeat as soon as I hear better information than what I have deduced myself. But until that time, I'll go with what my gut tells me.
And that's the beauty of Lamont. We are connected on the social media space. I can authentically say Lamont doesn't hold back on his opinions and thoughts of different issues. And that's part of what makes him completely unscripted. You know, there's a lot of folks that do watch what they have to say. In fact, Janie just posted about boundaries, right? And being directness and being direct. Lamont is that person. Lamont will say what is on his mind, without offense, or in his case, this is about how he feels and what he thinks at the moment. That is not meant to offend anyone, but it's in his sharing space. So I admire that about you. There's been many times where I've scrolled through through social media, and I start laughing my butt off because Lamont said something that I just went,
Well,
I'm in agreement to it. And then he probably represents the voices of the masses when he says those things. But that's what makes him a beautiful person.
well, that's interesting you say that, because a lot of times, well, I just, as I like to call it, I speak my truth. And you're right, there are boundaries, but I think with some things that are going on, no, I'm going to speak my truth. And I find it interesting every time I kind of moderate and say, oh, I'm going to start pulling back on this particular topic because I'm getting sick of hearing myself talk about it. I'll run across somebody at an event that kind of follow me at times on my social media platform, and I never hear from them. I don't see them. I know they're there, but I don't see them. They don't make comments or likes or anything like that. But they'll tell me in person, oh, I absolutely love when you talk about X, Y, and Z. You're speaking for me. I don't feel I can talk freely on those subjects because of my work or whatever the case may be. So every time, it's funny, every time I say, oh, I probably need to pull back, I'll run into somebody who makes me say, no, keep speaking your truth. Speaking your truth, there can be consequences for that, negative consequences. But it's my truth, and I kind of don't care.
As I'm a licensed psychotherapist here in Florida, Lamont, a lot of times I see people struggle with that, is finding their voice and understanding their truth and being confident in that. So I know you have belief around how to reconnect with our true power. So when I'm hearing you say that you are going to speak your truth, and at some point don't care because it is your truth, but yet you're humble enough to adjust yourself if someone comes with different information. What I hear in that is true power, is that you know who you are and you're able to come from that space. So could you share with us a little bit about your journey and to help our viewers, and how can they reconnect and have that same, you know what, I don't care, this is my truth and I'm going to speak it?
Well, I'm getting old. I'm getting old, and I find the older you get, the more set you can be in your ways. And my purpose for being, even though I haven't, I've heard someone recently say the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why. And I haven't quite figured out why yet, but one of them is not being in fear for speaking my truth. As you alluded to, I do it. I do use my voice. I don't intentionally intend to offend anyone at all with my truth because it's mine. And I try to do it based on my personality in a humorous way. So it can be biting, and I fully am aware that it's biting, and to a certain demographic, they may not think it's funny, but I do. So, boy, I kind of lost the original point of your question.
Yep, I was just reconnecting all the things that you were saying as far as your voice and speaking your opinion,
right?
to reconnecting with our true power.
For me, I think, well, this platform that or this journey that I'm on with the acting and so on and so forth, I think, and it has given me a little bit broader voice. I think the moment I really start to care about it is when I'll start moderating and be fearful of saying my truth. Because I think you stop taking risks when you have something to lose. And I'm not a mega star, so I don't have that to lose. So I really don't care. I'm going to speak my truth. And I think I'm to an age where that's going to remain and is not going to change. Never say never, but I hope not. That's just who I am. And some people are in positions, I think, where they certainly do have to moderate it. They have a lot to lose. So it's something that everybody has to make their own choice. It comes from within. It's who you are. It's evaluating your life. But I tend to evaluate things, relationships, things from a kind of a perspective of, if this were my last days on this earth, who would I want to physically see before I moved on? What issues would be important to me? If I'm really going to be honest on any topic, I kind of look at it from that perspective. I peel the onion back. Would I care about this if this was my last week and I had some terminal illness and I knew I had a week to go? Would I care about this? Or would I want to make a lasting imprint on this thing? Or relationships. If you're somebody that I would really want to come by my bedside so I can tell you thanks, I enjoyed knowing you or whatever, then you're probably a good friend or a good relationship. So I just kind of I don't know where it comes from, but I kind of break things down to getting to the center of the onion on its true importance. And I keep saying it, but speaking my truth is of true importance to me, because that's what's going to matter when I'm gone.
Bravo. I like the analogy of, the bedside comparison there. Like, for example,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's, the way I think, if we all thought back of, if you were in your last hours or week, who would you definitely want to come by just so you can tell them thank you for being in my life? You meant something to me. Those typically, I think people can count those people on one hand in many cases. And I think those, or that person that you could say, I don't know, my car's broken down, I'm somewhere, I don't know where, I'm in the middle of nowhere. It wouldn't matter. That person wouldn't say, oh, let me call AAA for you, or let me call somebody for you. That person would say, I'm on my way. And that I value. Those kind of relationships I truly value. So I kind of tend to look at things like that. The heart of an issue, I try to look at the heart of an issue, and that's why I can be so passionate on certain topics I voice, because I believe there's a core issue with it. And there's either something very, very wrong here that I think people should get, or something very, very good here that I think people should get. So I tend to get kind of passionate.
But that is so powerful. If we were to look at the people that truly impacts us, and it ties back to what Janie had even spoken about boundaries or posted about boundaries just the last 24 hours, it really gives it a whole different meaning and perspective of, first of all, we don't know when it's our turn to go, right? So each time, and I don't think it really has a lot to do with just getting old or older. I mean, of course, it gives us the permission to speak whatever we want to. But if you look at it from the perspective that you said, Lamont, of, who are those people that I want to thank for adding so much meaning and value to my life? If I was dying, let's go there. If I was found with a terminal illness, who are those people when I look back and flash backwards instead of flash forward, right? To say that thank you for the gift of your presence. Thank you for the gift of your heart. Thank you for the gift of your soul, because by you being present in my life, gave my life its own meaning and its own composition and its own, unscripted ways of just making it a beautiful journey. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I love what you just did. Oh, new hashtag. Hashtag be a value add. Be a value add.
Yes.
I like that because I truly believe if you approach things of how am I adding value to someone's life? How am I adding value to society? How am I adding value to any circumstance you're in? You just made that thought come forward. I really like that. Instead of what you can take from people or from situations, how and where can I add value? Being a value add type person. Let's play with that one and come up with a new hashtag.
There you go. Please do, because that's how I approach. And Janie can attest to this. Janie, feel free to jump in. That even in friendships or business space, I have always approached of how can I add value. We live in a world that is full of agenda, and when I say agenda is, let's just say Lamont is like, oh my goodness, he's an actor in House of Cards. Let me just cling on to him like a magnet because it'll help, move forward my own agenda to be on television or to be an actress or whatever it is. That's the common world of literally, partnering because you have this hidden agenda. But if we were to approach things in life and say, how can I add value to your purpose? First of all, what is your purpose? And how can I add value to that? Who can I bring to the table that'll help you get to the next level, or who you're trying to impact? Then those relationships in itself changes. This relationship and the quality of that relationship changes. You are going to have the folks that don't understand, your walk or your journey, and that's not for them to understand. But if you come from a place of, in your case, hashtag men that defend, that in itself is adding value to the presence of women like me. It was what gravitated me to you. The moment you said those 3 words, men that defend, I was like, who is this guy? Because I don't come across a lot of spaces of someone who's bold enough to say, I'm here as your guardian. Safety, Janie, she's the relationship expert here. Safety ranks number 1 with women coming into relationships or even friendships. Safety is number 1. And so when you have this public figure that takes the podium and the microphone and says, men that defend. I was like, I like him already and I don't even know who this guy is. Janie, your next question, love.
And I think all of that is awesome. But a lot of people struggle, Lamont, to get to that place of just abundance. I know you speak about, get to a place of coming into your own and being confident with age, I imagine life experiences on all those types of things. But what would you say to the people who are listening to you and from your own journey of how you've gotten to this place of abundance in your life and what they can potentially take away from that so that they can start creating some of that space for themselves?
Oh boy. I would first say I heard this recently. Don't get behind me because I may not lead, and don't get in front of me because I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be my friend. So I don't know if I'm one to give anybody any advice. I know what works for me. I think people have to kind of find it for themselves. Try it. I think coming from a good place, like you said, of wanting to add value. Why are you here? Is it to take from this earth, from this journey we call life? Is it just to take, or is it to give? That's just important to me. So when I've moved on, hopefully somebody can, in a memory, so he left something of value behind, and that's just important to me. I don't like seeing people in pain. I don't like seeing injustices, and so I'm just going to be, in my small way, a force to reconcile that, because there's enough evil and hate for 1,000 lifetimes. So I'm going to do in my little corner what I can do, and I think everybody can make that choice, to try to remove I and replace it with we. But I don't know if I have any specific profound formula in a bottle that I could say, here, buy this and go forth. Just do you. Don't try to copy what anybody else does. Just do you, but come from as pure of a place as you can. We all have agendas. The world spins on agendas. I think, quite honestly, if you peel the onion back, everything a human does is for a selfish reason, but it's not a negative connotation of selfish. We all have to survive and live and breathe and eat and have the necessities, but trying to make a bigger impact for the better. So, like I said, I don't know if I can tell anybody else how to do it. I just do me.
Well, Lamont, I think you just gave us lots of nuggets of you. Believe it or not, you said that you have to be unique. Be you, do you, be unique. You talked about being authentic, really finding your voice. And then also I hear in that our purpose is finding your purpose. Understand that we all operate from an agenda, but if you understand what that agenda is and it's from a pure place, and going back to adding value, sometimes it's okay to have mutuality also matters, that you're adding value, they're also adding value to you. And then your last statement, you just talked about making an impact, making a difference. So when you leave here, what's the impact? What's the difference that you make? And I like I believe it's Tony Robbins that has that metaphor of the rocking chair. If you're 80 or 90 years old and you're in the rocking chair and you're looking back at your life, what are your regrets? Where did you impact? Where was your purpose? Who are the people that you want to make amends with? All of that stuff. So you just packaged it. I'm just pulling it out in a way that can help us all become abundance in our life. But it really comes back to some of those key factors: is our purpose, our uniqueness, understanding who we are, and dealing with we can't get to the place of understanding who we are unless we deal with any insecurities, any traumas. Obviously, this is the psychotherapist coming out, Lamont, but dealing with all of that different stuff so that we can be secure in who we are and walk forward.
Yeah, I love the way you pulled that out, because I could see being in that rocking chair, even if I do briefly ruminate on a regret, I can then say, but I did this. and that kind of nullifies that regret. So, yeah, cool.
To put the focus on the positives and what we've learned in our life from anything that may have been negative, whatever the lessons learned, so that we can carry on, because everything has a lesson if we really look at it that way.
No doubt.
Absolutely. And as we come to a close, there is this one burning question I have. For those who do not know, Lamont Easter can freaking cook. he puts chefs to shame with what he posts on his social media. He calls it Lamont's Kitchen. Where did that passion for cooking come from?
Wanting to eat. No, serious. I love good food. I love a gourmet type of an eclectic type. I have an eclectic taste. So for most of my life, I've lived as a bachelor by myself. And so how else am I going to eat well on a nightly basis, but to cook it myself? And I think it gives you freedom and independence on top of it. But the main thing is simply, I enjoy good food. So, I started, I don't know, a couple of years ago, just posting some pictures of my dinner. And the response I got was pretty phenomenal. So, yeah, now I plate it and I make it look presentable and everything. And so I've got quite a following for, as you mentioned, what I coined Lamont. And I think a lot of people think it's a real restaurant, but it's just my kitchen table. I'll admit, after I take a picture of it, then I pick it up off the table. It's all nicely plated and everything, like you're in a restaurant. And then I go put it on a tray in front of the TV and eat it there. Oh, spoiler alert. It's an illusion. I'm not sitting there eating it most of the time. But yes, I cook it all and I eat it all, portion it up and pull it out the freezer or refrigerator. But yeah, it simply stems from I enjoy food. It's one of the pleasures that really no one should or no one can take away from you. So.
Well,
Yeah.
we are definitely going to post some photos with that when we drop the links here. I know you sent us your buy sheet, and is there any other projects you're able to tell us as we come to a close of this program that you want us to go, our listeners to support?
As I said, certainly support the foundation I'm deeply involved in, which is autismfyi.org. Mm-hmm. Another organization close to my heart is stillbrave.org, and they support the families of those going through the battles of childhood cancer. They focus primarily on the families, making sure they have gas money to get to the treatment with the child. And in many cases, when there's a child in a household that is stricken with cancer and going through chemo and the treatments, there's typically other siblings that are left at home while the parents are at the hospital with the child that's afflicted. And so Still Brave focuses and makes sure those kids get to the movies, have playmates, and get to do things because they can feel neglected. And I think a lot of time that focus is lost while everyone is rightfully so focused on the child that's afflicted with the cancer. But they not only focus on that child, they also focus on the family unit and make sure everybody's getting taken care of. So I really like their mission. So stillbrave.org is another organization that's close to my heart. And then as far as everything else, just get involved, do something. Many of us, don't have the financial means to donate, but you can give time. You can go to a local homeless shelter in your community and spend a couple hours on a Sunday. Just do something. If everybody does something positive, there'll be an overabundance and extra to go around.
Well, thank you so much for that.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Get involved and do something. So is there any main keys, Lamont, that you would like our viewers and our listeners as a result of hearing Lamont Easter, who likes to take the white out of the Oreos, what they can take away from a lot of nuggets, a lot of things that you said, but if you were to pick your top 3 things that you want to recap, what would that be?
Speak your truth. If it's, some people's truths don't need to be spoken, but I don't. If your truth is coming from a pure humanitarian equality for all place, then speak it. Live your truth. Don't just speak it, but live it. Do something. Just do it. I think Nike took that from me. And I think find your purpose, and I don't mean in the perspective of the typical way of us saying that, but find your purpose in how can you add value, we've said a few times, to humanity and to this place we call Earth, whether it's getting involved with the Earth itself and doing something from a taking care of this planet and the Earth for future generations, or whether it's getting involved politically to make a difference in politics in a positive direction. Just do something in your own small way. It could just be mentoring or letting a young high school student shadow you at work, as an example. There's many things we can do, but just do something is what I would ask of everyone.
There we go. That hashtag that will be posting today. Do something.
Yeah. Hashtag do something. Hashtag men that defend. Hashtag be a value add.
I love it.
Look at all the hashtags are just created from this one show.
Uh-huh.
Go Lamont. Well, we are coming to the close of the show. We appreciate your time, Lamont, and your wisdoms and your shares. For those, again, that are listening, follow him and not only his social media links that we will be sharing here, follow him and support all the television shows and, upcoming projects that Lamont is involved in. I am a fan of his work, but more of a fan of his heart and his platform. And it is just so refreshing, right, Janie, to know that there are men that defend in the world that we live in.
It is, and we need it more than ever to have men like you who have a pure heart, who know their truth, who can be authentic, and could be in a place where you're an advocate for all. So appreciate you and appreciate all the nuggets and the wisdoms and all the things that you've shared with us today. And it's just been an honor to meet you and to speak with you. So I certainly appreciate the introduction, Melanie.
You're very welcome. And Lamont, any parting words?
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun. And I look forward to coming back again.
We certainly will have you back again, right, Janie?
Absolutely. So our followers and the viewers, they can find you on, where can they find you at if they want to follow you?
I'm on Instagram by my name, Lamont Easter. Facebook, even though I need to create a second page or a third page because I don't think I can take many more people, but you can follow. I post most everything in the world just because I know there's followers out there. I don't know how many, could be 2. And then I have a website, lamonteaster.com. And admittedly, it's kind of stale at the moment. I need to update it, but I swear I'm going to do that in the next few weeks.
So basically, they can find you anywhere, Lamont Easter.
Yeah, I'm not hiding.
Well, thank you again for such I have really enjoyed this episode of our podcast again, Janie. I mean, our guest just keeps blowing minds and hearts every week.
Oh,
and Lamont is certainly,
yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to give a shout out to my oldest daughter, Tanisha. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tanisha. You have such a freaking awesome dad.
I know,
So
right?
happy birthday. Yes, you are. So we are coming definitely to a close. Janie, I will see you on next week's episode of Life Unscripted. Lamont, keep living your truth, speaking your truth, and we will keep following you.
All right. Keep it unscripted.
And have a good night, everybody. This is Melody signing off.
And this is Janie Lacey.
Peace.